بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. اللهم صل على الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد, respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's a pleasure to be back. But this year, the tafsir for the afternoon is something different. In the previous 2 years, we've examined tafsir of the Holy Quran, having looked at the tafsir of Surah Luqman and the tafsir of Surah Al-Kahf. This year, however, to examine a masterpiece of Ahl al-Bayt. We've already examined the masterpieces of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this year we want to examine the masterpiece of Ahl al-Bayt, and particularly the masterpiece of Imam Zain al-Abidin salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi, known as Risalat al-Huquq. Now this is something somewhat new, for not many people have examined Risalat al-Huquq, and there are many who would not even have heard of Risalat al-Huquq. For Imam Zain al-Abidin, normally his greatest piece of work is the supplication known as Sahifa Sajjadiyya. However, Risalat al-Huquq, I feel, is relevant in relation to history and in relation to contemporary society and the discussions that occur about the rights of the human being. And therefore what we will examine today is a brief glimpse of the biography of the Imam. Then inshallah tomorrow we will look at the concept of rights and humanity and the different opinions of the philosophers as to what constitutes human rights and how Islam views human rights, and whether secular thought and religious thought on human rights are compatible or no. Then beginning from the third day inshallah, we will begin to look at the first right in Risalat al-Huquq, which is of course the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over us. And then we will continue after that by looking at the right of the self, the right of the tongue, the right of the stomach, the right of salah, the right of sawm, the right of the father, the right of the mother, even the right of the one who leads salah. We will even look at his right in our community. Inshallah, every day, even those of you who can bring a pen and paper to take down a few notes which you can then discuss with the household, it will be very beneficial. Imam Zain al-Abidin salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. There is a difference of opinion as to when he was born. And amongst the opinions is that he was born in the 38th year of Hijrah, which would mean on the 10th of Muharram he was around 23, 24 years old. And then they say that he died on the 95th year of Hijrah, highlighting that the period of his imamate was approximately 34 years. Why? Because the event of Karbala happened on the 61st year of Hijrah. And so therefore if he died in the 95th year of Hijrah, it would mean that he lived after the 10th of Muharram for about 34 years. And it's a shame that many of us, when we look at these 34 years, the majority of the knowledge that you hear about him is that he cried. And every single time you hear about Imam Zain al-Abidin, after the 10th of Muharram, you hear he cried. He saw this incident, he cried. He saw that incident, he cried. Whereas in those 34 years after the 10th of Muharram, there were many important incidents which occurred, which we will come to in a moment. Because when you examine the legacy of any great human being, the legacy is either left behind in that which he wrote, number one, or in that which he spoke, number two, or in that which he acted, number three, or the children he left behind. And he left behind 5 children who I will examine in a moment. But in terms of the first area, his mother was Shaharbanu, the famous Iranian princess. Now the aspect of an imam's mother being an Iranian princess is a very important concept. Why? Because it highlights therefore that Imam al-Hussein did not marry from his own culture. Imam al-Hussein is from Medina. So if we were to have the idea that Imam Hussein should marry anyone, he should marry a girl from Medina. Because many times in our communities we restrict our marriages. To the extent I know some people who tell their children, forget marrying someone from their own country. You marry someone from the street we lived in. There's 8 families in the street we lived in. You marry one of them. Or you marry someone from the village. Or you marry someone from the city. Or you marry someone from the country. Normally you keep the person within the country. Whereas the Imam married somebody from Iran, and on top of that an Iranian princess. The aim was what? The aim was inna akramakum indallah atqakum. The best amongst you in the eyes of Allah is not the one who came from the same street as me, not the one who came from the same village as me. Culturally, yes, we know each other, we know your food and you know my food. So we're not going to have an argument. When I come home, you know how to cook. And you know what I like to eat. But more than that, sometimes there's not enough substance. You look and you think culturally you know all the secrets, but religiously there's nothing. I've married a body, not a soul. Whereas sometimes when you marry somebody from a different culture, if the iman is there and the akhlaq is there, then what's wrong with marrying somebody from a different culture? As long as that madhab is the same madhab of Al Muhammad, then you are able to have the same principles which were taught to you by Ahl al-Bayt. That's why if you look at the other Imams of Ahl al-Bayt, their wives were not from even the same country as them. 6th Imam, his wife was from North Africa. From where? North Africa. You know the Berber of Morocco? The Berbers they call them, of Morocco, and possibly modern day Algeria, that region. That's where his wife was from. Her name was Hamida. And when he married her, he says that she is Hamida in this world and Mahmuda in the hereafter. Meaning she is praised in this world and full of praise in the hereafter. Why? Because he didn't find himself someone from his community who was simply somebody who will serve him. No. He wanted her to be someone who can serve the religion of Islam. So what would happen whenever people would come to visit the Imam? If it was a female, he would say, go and see my wife Hamida, because her answers are exactly the same as mine. Imam as-Sadiq, for him to say that somebody's answer in fiqh is exactly the same as his, shows you just how knowledgeable this girl is from North Africa. Not from Medina, not from Mecca, not even from Kufa, not from Basra, from North Africa. Let me give you another example. 11th Imam married a Roman princess. I used to always beg my mother, let me marry an Italian sister. She said, what do you mean Italian? Marry from the community? What do you mean you go and marry Italian? I said, 11th Imam married an Italian, can't I marry an Italian? 11th Imam's wife is a Roman princess, Narjis Khatun. The mother of 12th Imam is a Roman princess, originally from the Christian faith, who came towards the religion of Islam. However many times her dad would try and marry her off, he couldn't. He tried to make her marry a cousin, but everything did not work as planned. Eventually, Imam al-Askari. Imam al-Askari could have easily said, Mom, I only want someone from Medina. Or even, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say he says, I only want to marry someone from Samarra. Considering he's buried where? Samarra? No. I want to marry someone who you believe will serve this religion. And subhanallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose that his proof on earth who will rise and bring justice will be born from someone originally from Rome. It goes to show you that when the religion came, the aim of the religion wasn't looking at race. Because there are many from the same culture, you wish you could throw them somewhere else into a different culture. And there are some from a different culture, you wish you could tell them, come join our culture because your behavior is so beautiful. Therefore, the Imam's mother was Shahr Banu. She died, according to narrations, 10 days after she gave birth to him. So therefore, she wasn't present on the 10th of Muharram. She gave birth to him, and then she died. Hence you notice that in his supplications and in Risalat al-Huquq, he has an unbelievable respect for the mother. You know, when you never saw that mother, it's as if your heart pours out reaching her. Or those whose father died when they were young, it's as if they want to talk more about their father, even though their father died when they were young. It's like someone who's lost a child. They want to talk more about the child, even though the child died when they were young. Likewise, you find the Imam, because of not being able to see his mother, he talks so much about the rights of the mother. It's as if he yearned to have a mother in his life. When we look at the Imam, you see the first area of the Imam, and when we want to look at his legacy, is the area of his legacy in terms of his actions. Why? Because when you hear the stories of any Imam, the aim in listening to these stories can be two things. Either it just can be that, okay, it's a piece of history, I will listen to it and that's it. Or the aim is that I will take that story and apply it into my own life. And when you look at the life of our fourth Imam, the first area which is very clear in the stories that describe him is his morals. Very clear. That his akhlaq was respected by his friends and respected by his enemies. Because what is a human being without morals? A human being without morals is something which is just a piece of clay. It's the morals that give life to the human being, different from any other creation. The Imam's morals were seen as being the highest, and this can be seen in a number of stories. Look at a couple of examples. Abdul Malik ibn Marwan was the Khalifa of Bani Umayyah for 21 years. He was the son of Marwan ibn al-Hakam. You see, Bani Umayyah, the first Khalifa of Bani Umayyah is Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, if we were to take Uthman bin Affan on the side. Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, then you had Yazid, then you had Muawiyah, the son of Yazid, then you had Marwan ibn al-Hakam, then you had Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. Abdul Malik ibn Marwan was Khalifa for 21 years. And his period of rule, unfortunately, is not a reflection of what Rasulullah wanted in his Khulafa. He had a governor in Medina who was his father-in-law, Hisham ibn Ismail, father-in-law of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. Hisham ibn Ismail was known as one of the worst and most severe governors of Bani Umayyah. As in literally, if he doesn't like you, then you're sent straight away to the dungeons or you're killed just because he doesn't like you, not because you've wronged anyone. That Ibn al-Musayyib was lashed 60 times even though he was revered as one of the writers of ahadith. Hisham ibn Ismail used to particularly offend Imam Zain al-Abidin. In which way? For example, if Imam Zain al-Abidin leaves his house, this person comes and nudges him, or he pushes him. He has these ways with him, or makes people come in his way when he's walking. When Abdul Malik ibn Marwan died, he was succeeded. And when he was succeeded by Walid, Walid appointed whom? Walid appointed Umar ibn Abdul Aziz as whom? He appointed Umar ibn Abdul Aziz as his governor. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, I have studied his life to tell you that there are many inclinations towards Ahl al-Bayt in his life. Number one, he gave Fadak back to Imam al-Baqir. The land of Fadak, which was taken from Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, was given back by whom? Umar bin Abdul Aziz. Number 2, he stopped the abuse against Amir al-Mu'mineen. Every Friday they used to abuse Amir al-Mu'mineen in the khutbah, whereas he stopped it. And when he became governor of Medina, he got Hisham ibn Ismail, even though he was his own family member, and he tied him in front of the house of Marwan. And he said, anybody who has any grievances against him, come forward now and put forward your grievance. Hisham ibn Ismail, when he was put in this area where you're roped, he said, I do not have any fears except from Ali ibn al-Hussein. Said to him, why? He said, because Ali ibn al-Hussein, I offend him and hurt him very much in his life. I don't let him rest when he leaves his house. So I don't fear anyone who I have hurt except Ali ibn al-Hussein. I fear that he's going to come back and avenge me. Now some of us, when we are wronged for a single moment, somebody accidentally wrongs us, suddenly we jump. How dare you? Who do you think you are? Who are you looking at? What's wrong? Imagine for years you leave your house and you have someone who offends you. Not one moment. Some of us, one moment we jump. Try driving and somebody cuts you. Look at your reaction. Whereas you find with whom? You find with the Imam, when he heard Hisham bin Ismail, some of the companions thought, surely now Imam Zain al-Abidin is going to go and slap him. Or the Imam is going to go and hit him. No, nothing of the sort. Imam Zain al-Abidin was told by his companions, Hisham ibn Ismail, the man who used to always impede you and get in your way, is now being held for those people to take retribution. Do you know what the Imam said? Imam said, I want you to go near Hisham ibn Ismail, and I want you to say to him that if he is hungry, our house will give him food. And if he is thirsty, our house will quench his thirst. And if he has any loan which is outstanding, we will look after that loan. The companions didn't have it in them to go. The Imam went near him. Imagine Hisham ibn Ismail is roped. All of a sudden he sees Ali ibn al-Hussein coming towards him. When he sees Imam Zain al-Abidin coming towards him, he looks at him. Then all of a sudden he thinks to himself, surely now he's going to hit me. Imam sat near him. Imagine now in your position, and I am being roped. He came and sat down and he said, Hisham ibn Ismail, I am here to help you. If you feel you have been wronged in any way, then we can help you. If you are ever hungry, or you are ever thirsty, or you ever have a loan, we will be the first to help you. Here it goes to show you that he embodied the akhlaq of the Imams before him. That when you are wronged, do not reply back with a wrong, because two wrongs do not make a right. When you are wronged, reply back with forgiveness. Why? As the Imam himself says, forgive people as you'd want Allah to forgive you on the day of judgment. Many times we have a problem with someone, we don't forgive. They send the president of the community, we say no. They send our grandparents, they say no. They send different members of the family, we say no. And until everybody comes, we will say no. In the same way on the day of judgment, this person will try and intercede for you. Allah will say no. That person will try, no. He will try, no. In the same way, in this world, many interceded and you rejected them. Everyone who intercedes for you on the day of judgment, I'll reject them as well. The Imam wanted to bring this philosophy. Therefore, in the first area, what do we find? The area of the akhlaq of the Imam. Number 2, the words of the Imam. One of the most beautiful ahadith of the Imam, which we take as a glimpse today, because we said it's a glimpse of his biography. There's a beautiful hadith which we could take today. Somebody once came to the Imam. He said to him, "Oh Imam, somebody has been doing ghibah on you." You know, we have people in our community, they come and tell us, this person has been backbiting you, that person has been backbiting you. Imam looked at him in a sense of disappointment. The person said, "Imam, what's wrong? I just came and told you someone has been backbiting you." He said, "That person shot the arrow, but you made sure it reached me." Think about it. There are many arrows which are shot throughout the day. Do we agree? Each one of us shoots an arrow. But there's only a few of us who make sure that that arrow reaches the intended target. The problem sometimes isn't the shooter of the arrow, it's the one who guides where it reaches. Imagine now that you have a bow and you have the arrow and you shoot. Now that arrow can go anywhere. But then someone holds it and says, wait, you arrow, come with me. I want you to come to someone's heart. I'm going to pierce you in the heart. The Imam, this one hadith he has, can be studied in a million ways. That when you hear somebody has spoken about you, Imam Hassan says there's 4 fingers between what is right and what is wrong. And they are between the ears and the eyes. That which you hear, verify by your eyes. Whenever anyone comes and tells you something, that's why many in the community, because of this, you find many people do not come to the programs of the community. Why? They say everybody in the community backbites me, everybody speaks about me. Listen to what Prophet Musa says. Prophet Musa, when he said, Ya Allah, everybody backbites me, everybody speaks about me, Ya Allah, why don't you stop them? Allah replied, I haven't given myself that honor. People talk about me and they speak about me, yet I led them. So why should I give you the honor if I don't give myself the honor? True? Don't you see people say there's no God? Don't you see people blaspheme about God? Has He stopped them? No. In the same way, it is part and parcel. But we have to make sure the arrow which is shot does not reach the intended target. When we hear something, that's why they say the listener to ghibat is worse than the one performing the ghibat. The listener is worse than the one who performs. Because the listener's telling him, come on, continue, I want to hear more, I want to hear more, this is interesting. That's worse than the one who's even speaking. Therefore, this is a glimpse of his words, and that's why you know, in the court of Yazid in Sham, he stood up against Yazid even though he had gone through a period of illness. And when he stood up against Yazid, the words which he recited highlight just how powerful this tongue is. When he came forward and he said that Allah has granted us 6 and blessed us with 7. He said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted us with knowledge and patience and eloquence and generosity, and the believers' affection for us and bravery. And He has granted us 7. He has granted us Rasulullah and Imam Ali and Imam al-Hasan and Hamza and Ja'far and Fatima and whom? Imam al-Hussein. And He has granted us Al-Mahdi who will kill Dajjal. Those of you who know me, and those of you who don't, let me tell you who I am. I am the son of Mecca and Mina. I am the son of Zamzam and Safa. I am the son of the one who held the black stone in his aba. I am the son of the one who was taken to Sidrat al-Muntaha. I am the son of Muhammad al-Mustafa. Then he went on to say, I am the son of Ali al-Murtada, the one who annihilated the polytheists until they said La ilaha illallah. I am the son of the one who fought at Badr and Hunayn and who pledged 2 allegiances and who went on 2 migrations, the believer's pious one, the descendant of the prophets, annihilator of the polytheists, commander of the faithful, luminary of the fighters. And he went on until he said, I am the son of the one who was killed on the plains of Karbala. These lines highlighted the power of his tongue. That there were times when he'd instruct you morally, and there are times when he'd speak out when he saw injustice. Then on the next area, would you look at the worship of Imam? Because when he is called Zain al-Abidin, when he is given this title, it's because he is the luminary of the worshippers, the best of the obedient ones. Do you know one of his titles was Dhul Thafanat? What was the title? Dhul Thafanat. Do you know why he was given this title? Thafanat is that piece of skin which emerges from the knee of the camel. Because you know a camel, when it sits on the ground, it rubs the knees on really hard ground. I'm sure you've seen sometimes, you look at the camel, you think, how does your leg survive on this really hard ground? What then comes out of the knee is a piece of meat. Some meat begins to grow on the knee. That is known as tafanat, the meat pieces which grow on the knee. He, because of how much sujood he performed, had meat pieces growing from the forehead. To the extent that they said the meat pieces would fall from the forehead from how much he was in sujood. That's why another of his titles was Sayyid al-Sajjadi. That he is the master of the prostrators. Always he would be seen in sujood. Even one day, fifth Imam says, I saw my father in sujood for so long that when he got up, I noticed how much he was crying and he looked like he was trembling from fear. I said, my father, look how great your worship is. He said, my son, this is nothing compared to your grandfather Ali ibn Abi Talib. Imagine, subhanallah, that he is given the title of Sayyid al-Sajjadeen, Zain al-Abidin, but he tells Imam al-Baqir, nothing compared to Ali ibn Abi Talib. Imagine what type of worship did Amir al-Mu'mineen perform in the night that he is given that title from his grandson Zain al-Abidin. That fifth Imam, he says on one occasion, the narration states that there was a fire in their house. Everybody ran out of the house. As imagine if I was in Salah or you were in Salah and in the house there's a fire, would we stay in Salah or we jump out of the window? So we'll all jump out. He says everybody ran out except my father. My father remained in his Salah. He said my mother's of course worried, where's my father? He's in his Salah, until my father walked out having finished his Salah. He said to him, Father, I said, you were praying but the house was burning. He said that there is the fire of this world and the fire of the hereafter. And I was more concerned with the fire of the hereafter. Imagine that the mentality is that while he's in his worship, there is an understanding of the essence of the hereafter. Whereas many times when we are in our worship, the mentality is, what meeting do I have today? Okay, 4, 6:30, 7 o'clock, okay, Subhana Rabbi al-Azimi. The mentality is purely world. As in you're in sujood or in ruku' and you're thinking there's about 6 meetings after, or I have to go home, I have to be. Whereas his mentality is purely hereafter. The fire of the hereafter is what I fear, not the fire of this house. The same Lord I am praying to will make sure the fire of this house is not touching me. So therefore in the next area you had the worship. On the final area of the Imam, you had the sons of the Imam, the children of the Imam. Imam had 5 children. And these children are very influential figures. Let me explain. He had 4 sons and 1 daughter. How many sons? 4. Muhammad al-Baqir, Ali, and he had a son by the name of different narrations. One says Ammar, and another son by the name of Zaid. Muhammad, Ali, Ammar and Zaid. And he had a daughter by the name of Khadija, 1 daughter. Her name was Khadija. Muhammad al-Baqir and Zayd are very influential. Why? Imam al-Baqir we know very well about. And we know well about his life. And the fact that he is respected by all schools in Islam. But that other son, Zayd, is also revered by over 9 million people in the world today. You see, when you say the word Shia, many people think the word Shia refers only to Ithna Ashari. But there are 3 different sects of Shia. Ithna Ashari, Ismaili and Zaydi. How many? 3. The Zaydi school, you'll find them in parts, for example, of Yemen or Oman, that area, that region. They all follow the imamate of Zayd following Imam Zain al-Abidin. You see, Zayd, the son of Imam Zain al-Abidin, is not a small personality. In terms of his respect and in terms of his worship, he is similar to his father. In terms of his respect, one day Rasulullah was next to his companion, his adopted son Zayd ibn Haritha. Zayd ibn Haritha says, I was next to Rasulullah when all of a sudden Rasulullah started crying. I looked at Rasulullah and said, Ya Rasulullah, why are you crying? He said, because my son will be named after you. And he will be crucified by whom? And he will be crucified, and on top of that, it will be within the ummah that he will be a martyr. On another occasion, Rasulullah tells Imam al-Hussein, from your descendants, there will be someone who will be a martyr. And on the day of judgment, he will walk on the necks of people. Meaning what? Meaning people will bow down to him. Even Imam Zain al-Abidin told his son Zayd, "Oh Zayd, one day you will be crucified on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." The narrators living in the time of Zayd, son of Imam Zain al-Abidin, people like Muhammad ibn Furat, they come forward and they say that Zayd had the marks of sujood on his forehead, exactly like his father. Some people will ask, then what is so special about Zayd? Why do people revere him as an imam? The Zaydis do not take Imam al-Baqir as the fifth imam. They take Zayd, his brother. Why? Because in their philosophy, the idea is that an imam is one who rises against the oppression of his time. They say Imam al-Baqir didn't rise, whereas Zayd rose against the oppression of his time. So the Zaydis take Zayd as the next imam. Zayd, who did he rise against? He rose against Hisham ibn al-Hakam, the Bani Umayyah Khalifa. You see, the people of Kufa said to Zayd, let's avenge Karbala and what happened to your grandfather Imam al-Hussein. So Zayd said, who do we avenge? They said Hisham ibn al-Hakam. Zayd done something very valiant. As a leader, he went to Hisham. And when he went to Hisham ibn al-Hakam, Hisham ibn al-Hakam, like many of Bani Umayyah, used to have in his house or in his palace Christians, Christian officials, Christian leaders. And what happened was, he had poets who were Christian. Amongst the poets was a man by the name of Al-Akhtal. If you go and read his poetry abuses the Ansar of Rasulullah, the people of Medina. And his poetry abuses Rasulullah. When Zayd was there, he heard Rasulullah abused. He told Hisham ibn Hakam, how dare you have a man who abuses Rasulullah? Hisham ibn Hakam said, who are you to speak to me? What do you want? The Khilafah? Is that what you want? Zayd said, all we want is some sort of justice. He said, you think the Khilafah will come to you? O son of a slave girl. Listen to the mouth. Do you know why? Because Zayd's mother was from Sindh. Sindh. Which part of Pakistan is Sindh? Northwest? Sindhi. They say Sindhi. His mother is from Sindh. She was a slave girl Mukhtar al-Thaqafi gave to Imam Zain al-Abidin. From her he was born. And so it goes to show you, he said, my mother has nothing to do with what I'm telling you. Otherwise, Prophet Ismail's mother was a black slave girl called Hajar. True? Prophet Ibrahim's wife Hajar was a black slave girl, yet he married her. Eventually Zayd fought Hisham ibn al-Hakam and he was killed. And today his grave, or the Darih, those of you who visited, is between Hilla and Tuarij. They killed him. When they killed him, of course it needs a major discussion, his life and his killing. But suffice for us to say, he was hung on a tree for 4 years. Nude, hung on a tree. 4 years they didn't give him a burial. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not allow a body of his chosen companions to remain exposed. So there used to be a bird by the name of a fakhita. It's a type of bird. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's as if He inspired it to nest in a way which would cover the areas of privacy in Zayd. Every time the soldiers of Bani Umayyah try and move the nest, it comes back and nests again and begins again. Until eventually they burned his body completely. And therefore, until today, in Oman and Yemen, you have a group of the Shia known as the Zaydis, who follow up until Imam Zain al-Abidin, then they follow Zayd. Inshallah, tomorrow we will continue by examining the concept of haqq and huquq in Islam and how it differs from Western thought, before beginning with the tafsir of the Risalat al-Huquq. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.